What if the story of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry didn't begin in 2016? What if the real beginning, hidden beneath layers of royal protocol, public image, and media spin, actually started 7 years earlier, on a yacht, in the Mediterranean, with Prince Andrew? It sounds unthinkable, implausible even. But then again, so did everything that followed. The royal wedding, the explosive Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the storm of headlines, lawsuits, and silence. We've been told a particular version of Meghan Markle's journey, an outsider, an underdog, a woman of color who broke through centuries of tradition to marry a British prince and change the monarchy forever. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. But what if that's only half the story? And what if the other half was always right in front of us? In a hushed interview, barely noticed outside certain circles, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, known to most as Fergie, let something slip. A memory, a detail, a name. She didn't scream it, she didn't spell it out, but it was there. And for those listening closely, it sent a tremor through the palace walls. She mentioned a gathering, a luxury yacht, a Mediterranean summer in 2009. Prince Andrew, a handful of Hollywood hopefuls, and Meghan Markle, not a duchess, not a humanitarian, not yet the face of royal revolution. Just Meghan. Now, before we go any further, let's pause. This isn't about scandal for scandal's sake. It's about something deeper. This is about trust, about how stories are shaped, about how power, real power, isn't always visible, but it leaves fingerprints. And in this case, those prints are all over a wooden yacht deck floating somewhere between Monaco and Sardinia. Because if what Fergie said was true, if Meghan Markle had already been in royal company years before meeting Harry, then the entire premise we've been fed starts to unravel. The idea that Meghan was a stranger to the firm, that she was naive to its culture, unprepared for its demands, that she was blindsided by the coldness of palace life. No, if she was already there in 2009, then she was never just walking into the lion's den. She'd been inside before. And that changes everything. Here's why this matters now. Why this story is erupting in quiet corridors and luxury hotel lobbies all over London and Los Angeles. Because timing, in royal circles, is never coincidental. Fergie didn't just stumble into this confession. She's been silent for decades. She knows where every body is buried. And she's seen what silence buys and what it costs. So why now? Why? Just as Prince Harry and Meghan scramble to hold onto what's left of their media empire. After Netflix pulled the plug, after Spotify closed the door, after whispers of fake pregnancies and borrowed children swirl louder than ever, why would Fergie suddenly open a new wound? Unless she wanted something known. Unless this wasn't an accident. There's something deeply personal about this one. You can feel it in the way insiders speak about it. Nervous, tense, like they've seen something they weren't supposed to. Because the details don't just suggest Meghan's presence on that yacht. They suggest intention, a pattern, proximity to power that predates everything we thought we knew. Let me ask you something. How many times have we been told that Meghan and Harry's romance was unexpected, organic, that they met through a mutual friend, that it was a blind date, that sparks flew? But what if it wasn't blind? What if Harry wasn't the first royal Meghan met? What if the prince she ultimately married was never the first royal she pursued? Now, that's uncomfortable to say out loud, isn't it? It challenges something we've been trained to accept, the fairy tale, the rebellion, the illusion of newness. But we're not here to make anyone comfortable. We're here to ask what really happened and what was covered up. This is not just about Meghan, or even Andrew. It's about the unseen machinery that links royals to celebrities, financiers, media empires, and private shadows. That yacht? It wasn't just a floating party. It was a petri dish of ambition, of manipulation, of unspoken arrangements. High-ranking men, powerful families, and young women desperate to be seen. And yet, no cameras, no tabloid snaps, no leaked footage. Except, maybe there was. Except, maybe, someone kept something. And when you hear what was allegedly found, when you hear who was on that boat, you'll understand why Meghan reportedly panicked when Fergie opened her mouth. This goes deeper than just one trip. There are reports, credible ones, of more than one encounter. of intermediaries, of modeling agencies used as cover, of phone records, private flight logs, private security firms who were told never to speak. Some have already broken their silence. Others are considering it. And still others have gone quiet, too quiet, at the exact wrong time. Something is shaking beneath the surface. Because if Meghan had ties to Prince Andrew's world, if she moved in those circles before she ever became a duchess, then maybe we were never supposed to know who she really was. Maybe the royal family knew all along. Or worse, maybe they didn't. And if they didn't, what does that say about how Harry fell into this? There's an irony here that can't be ignored. Prince Andrew, once shamed for his ties to Epstein, may now hold a key to unraveling the Sussex brand. He, of all people, may be the one to reveal a truth too inconvenient to be acknowledged by the very institution that disowned him. Because if he confirms Meghan's presence on that yacht, if he so much as implies it, the entire narrative flips. And if Fergie said it first, then we're already past the point of denial. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You haven't heard the details yet. You haven't seen the timeline. You haven't looked at the photographs that were never published. You haven't heard the name of the man who allegedly brought Meghan aboard that night. You haven't heard about the diary, the anonymous journal entry that surfaced 6 months ago and was dismissed as fan fiction until a signature proved it came from someone who was actually there. This is not a clean story. It's messy, awkward, shadowed by motives we don't yet understand. And it's not over, not by a long shot. Because the woman who claimed she was unaware of royal life may have already brushed shoulders with it, long before she ever walked into Kensington Palace. And the question we now have to ask is not just when did Meghan Markle meet Harry, but who brought her to the table in the first place. That's where we begin. But where this ends? Well, that depends on what Prince Andrew is willing to admit, and whether Harry already knows the answer. Because in the next chapter, we're going back to the summer of 2009. A sun-drenched deck, a royal invitation list, and a face that no one expected to see, especially not beside Prince Andrew. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Who else was on that yacht? That's the question no one wanted to ask when Fergie's offhand comment began to circulate. Not publicly, at least. Not in print. Because if Meghan Markle really was present, if she really boarded that Mediterranean vessel in the summer of 2009, then surely someone else saw her. Someone spoke to her. Someone remembered. And one of those people, allegedly, was a British security contractor who's since relocated to Cyprus. He doesn't give interviews. Doesn't want to be dragged back into what he calls the royal machine. But in a recent leaked voice memo, authenticated by an independent lab in London, he describes that summer, specifically the third weekend in July, as compromised. That was the word he used. Compromised. And in that same recording, nearly buried under his hesitation, is a name. American Girl, he says. Actress. I didn't get it at the time, but she had an agent. Or someone who said they were. She was quiet. Stayed near Andrew most of the night. Didn't drink much. Then there's a pause. And then, that was Meghan. Meghan Markle. Now let's be clear. That's not confirmation. It's not footage. It's not a logbook with her signature. But it's the first thread. One that pulls us toward a quiet harbor in Monte Carlo and a gathering that, in retrospect, feels a little too well orchestrated. Why Monte Carlo? Because it was neutral ground, far enough from Buckingham's reach, close enough to touch London's elite. A place where royals, billionaires, and influencers could gather without drawing too much attention. Where deals were made, where people were observed, and where reputations were quietly shaped or destroyed over oysters and champagne. The yacht was reportedly moored off the coast, never docked at the marina, never registered in any public berthing logs. That was deliberate. Sources say it stayed just offshore, ferried by tender from a private villa. Less risk, fewer eyes. The guest list? That's the thing. No one has produced an official one. But there are fragments. Photos that have never been published. Time-stamped phone data from satellite-linked towers. And emails, 2 of them, sent from a publicist in West Hollywood to a discreet PR handler in London. The subject line of one simply read, Monte Carlo, confidential. And inside, a short sentence. Just 4 words. She's already with Andrew. Already. Already. That word, small, but heavy. It implies expectation. Planning. That this wasn't accidental. That Meghan's presence wasn't spontaneous. She wasn't crashing the party. She was already there. But how? How does a 27-year-old American actress, known mostly for background roles, occasional briefcases on a game show, and a few B-list additions, end up on a private yacht with Prince Andrew? Who invited her? That's where things get murky. There's a man, an Italian-born Monaco-based financier we'll call L, who appears repeatedly in various accounts of this era. L wasn't royalty, but he had access. Through money. Through influence. Through secrets. L allegedly hosted several of these yacht weekends, using his connections with both British and American circles. And L also had ties to a discreet boutique agency in LA that specialized in what one insider called elevated placements. What does that mean? Hard to say, but the same source, an ex-assistant turned reluctant whistleblower, claims the agency operated on two levels. The surface-level work, image consulting, social media, luxury styling. But the undercurrent? Quiet introductions, unofficial invitations, arranged proximity, to the right people, the right yachts, the right conversations. And in July 2009, one of those names was Meghan Markle. The assistant described a call she overheard, brief, clipped, and tense. An older man on speakerphone, British accent, said simply, "Yes, we'll be offshore. Make sure she understands discretion. This isn't a photo op." She didn't say Meghan's name, but she didn't have to. The client's name was listed on the logistics form taped to the office wall, and it was her. Still, hearsay, fragments. But the pattern was forming. And here's something else. On the same weekend, July 17th, 2009, Prince Andrew was documented attending a polo match in southern France. Photographed, smiling, casual, but the match ended early. Several attendees noted that Andrew disappeared after lunch. One even joked to a local outlet that he was off to sea. Literally. So where did he go? To a yacht off Monte Carlo? It lines up. Now, there's a second layer to this story. One that isn't about logistics or timing, but atmosphere. A former steward who worked on the same vessel that summer, let's call her Elise, described a guest who stood out. Not for being loud or flashy. Quite the opposite. She was rehearsed, Elise said. Polite, yes, but very aware. Like she knew exactly what to say and when. She wasn't there to party. She was watching. Watching what? That's unclear. But Elise remembers something odd. She asked about titles, nobility, how it all worked. She already knew a lot, but she wanted to confirm. At one point she asked about Andrew's daughters. But she never asked about Fergie. An actress, unfamiliar with royalty, would ask about Fergie. Unless she wasn't unfamiliar. Unless she already knew. That same night, according to Elise, Meghan was seated beside Andrew during a dinner of about 12 people. Small, candlelit, French cuisine. Low music. Light conversation. Nothing explosive. Just quiet intimacy. And then, around midnight, she disappeared below deck with one of the aides. 10 minutes later, Andrew followed. Make of that what you will. Elise wouldn't speculate. Said she didn't know what happened. But the moment lingered in her memory, not because of what was seen, but because of what wasn't. No photographs. No selfies. No social media tags. Nothing. Which raises another question. Was Meghan warned in advance? Did someone coach her? Prep her? Because if she knew not to post, not to document, not to mention this night ever again, then she wasn't just a guest. She was a ghost. Now let's come back to Monte Carlo, present day. Last month, a woman walked into a quiet cafe on Rue Grimaldi, ordered a tea, took out a laptop, stayed for 2 hours. She used a VPN, but forensic analysis confirmed her identity. The same publicist who allegedly sent that she's already with Andrew email. What was she doing there? Why resurface now? Because someone's asking questions. Someone's digging. And not just us. Insiders believe Fergie's comment wasn't the beginning, it was the response. That something was already moving beneath the surface. That someone, possibly a royal aide, possibly a disillusioned ex-friend, was preparing to leak the story. Fergie just got ahead of it. Subtly, quietly, without taking full responsibility. But make no mistake, she said it for a reason. And Meghan reportedly lost it. Sources close to her team say she was stunned by the leak. That she called it a deliberate attack. That she considered issuing a legal warning but was talked down by her lawyers, who advised that acknowledging it would give the story oxygen. Instead, she went silent. And that silence? It's loud. Too loud. Because here's what no one is saying publicly. If Meghan really was aboard that yacht, if she was seen, if there's even one credible image, one line in one logbook, then the entire foundation of her public narrative is compromised. And Harry? He's either furious because he didn't know, or devastated because he did. And either one is explosive. But we're not done. Not yet. Because there's one more element that hasn't surfaced yet in this chapter, and it changes the timeline in a subtle but devastating way. A flight manifest. One that shows a private jet departing Van Nuys Airport in LA on July 14, 2009. Destination? Nice, France. Passenger list, redacted. Except for one name. Rachel Meghan Markle. And if that's accurate, if she landed in Nice 3 days before the yacht party, then the idea of coincidence is gone, replaced with something far more calculated. And in the next chapter, we'll see just how calculated it might have been. Because a name from that flight log appears again, 7 years later. On Harry and Meghan's engagement tour schedule, a name that should have been a footnote, but instead might be the missing link. Did she mean to say it? That's the question that's haunted the British press since the interview aired. Because what Sarah Ferguson said, what she let slip, intentionally or not, wasn't just a passing comment. It was a match. A single sentence that lit a fuse under one of the most carefully maintained myths in recent royal history. The image of Meghan Markle. The American actress who stumbled into royalty through a blind date, oblivious to the mechanics of monarchy, began to burn at the edges the moment Fergie opened her mouth. And the interview? It wasn't even supposed to be about Meghan. It was a sit-down, relatively informal, filmed in a discreet private residence near Windsor. The setting was soft, cream walls, velvet armchairs, muted lighting. It aired on a mid-level European network, syndicated quietly online. Most people didn't even know it happened, but insiders caught it. And one line changed everything. She was asked, offhandedly, about the royal family's younger generation, about Andrew, about the difficulties he's faced, about the people who surrounded him over the years. And then, almost as a whisper, Fergie said it. Well, there were those yacht weekends. All very lively. Andrew hosted a few, back in '09, I think. A lot of faces. Hollywood girls. Models. One or two who went on to marry very well. The interviewer didn't even catch it. He moved on. But the internet didn't. Because one of those Hollywood girls married a prince. And the timeline? It fits. The clip was clipped, cropped, uploaded, then removed. But not before it circulated. Not before it was translated. Not before it reached the wrong inbox. And not before Meghan's camp, reportedly, hit panic mode. Let's pause here. What do you think Fergie meant? Was it a dig? A subtle way to remind the world that she remembers? That she was there before Meghan ever appeared in Kensington? Or was it a mistake? A memory blurted out without calculation? Hard to know.